SIA Healthcare 2023 is in the books. On this episode, we talk about what we saw there with, up until now, I didn't know it was his first time, Taylor Christensen, Division Manager here at Atlas on the client side. Atlas All Access starts now. All right, welcome. First
Thanks for having
time,
me.
right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. How long have, okay, let's give me some background on yourself. I mean, I know they don't. Where'd you come from? How long you been here? That type of thing.
Yeah, so I think it's 6.5 years now. Kind of a blink of 6.5 years, and you throw COVID into the middle of it, and
Right.
that speeds it all up. I think we first met, Rich, probably in 2013
Probably.
or 14. And I was doing commercial insurance here. You guys were someone in the infant stage of really building Atlas.
More than somewhat. We were, yeah.
And it was a work comp related thing, I
Yes.
think, which is, obviously still a challenge in the industry. And we worked together on that for probably 4 years
Yeah.
before my wife, Emily, and I decided we wanted to go home.
Mm-hmm. And home
you
is
guys were
not
at
Omaha.
Avenue. Home is not Omaha. We live in Iowa in a small town called Slater, which is about 15 miles south of Ames, where Iowa State University is.
Okay.
We wanted to go there and start our family. We were engaged. We wanted to be closer to her folks, my folks, and that's where home was. So you guys kind of gave that gateway to do that, and the rest has been kind of history.
So you work on the client side with us now. Talk about that a little bit, because that was your first introduction to SIA was this year, because of the work you do on the client side.
Yeah, for sure. So I started here as a client manager, and at that time was taking over a territory. We were in a territory model, right? Just like most organizations were at some point. And started in a territory and started to learn the business. And I think what I enjoyed, I came from an industry where I was selling business to business all day. So my brain worked that way. I thought that way. I wanted to use my brain in a way that, and my skills in a way that would help businesses on the outside, but also then was helping Atlas achieve what their goal was. I don't know, about a year into it, it came pretty obvious to me that there was a specific partner in the industry, one of the many out there, that really matched well with me. And it wasn't too long after that Atlas then committed to going to specialization based on external partnerships, so that we could craft and build teams that were dedicated to our customer and put the resources around that team to do things the way that the customer wanted them to be done.
And you can mention names on here. We've done that before. So,
Okay.
yeah, you totally can. So Taylor runs our right sourcing, everything behind right sourcing, which is a vendor-neutral platform. Has been around for a number of years now, right? Quite a few years. One of the very first vendors that took a chance on us back in the day was right sourcing, and so that's why it's pretty special to me, and having you in that relationship is pretty special too.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's nice of you to say. I think right sourcing is a really, really special partnership. It's a unique partnership in the sense that they do offer 100% vendor neutrality. They don't employ recruiters, so we never run into them in the market in terms of competition. I think the other thing that's nice is it really aligns us in the sense that in order for them to make their business work and to serve their customer, they have to use us agencies to make that happen.
Right.
And so I think that creates a really nice process from nurse all the way to facility, because the two people that are in the middle between the end customers and the actual doers day to day, the nurse and the hospital, those two people are totally aligned. And the objective is to take candidates and find places for them, put them in positions where they will accept jobs and the hospitals will fill needs that they have.
Right.
And I think that's unique, in my opinion. I'm a little biased working right sourcing,
Right.
but I think that's a good alignment.
I think when you break it down to those very basic pieces, it is kind of unique in our industry right now, right? It isn't that Well, and that's a whole different conversation that we could get into outside of SIA. But yeah, sometimes you're not getting the best traveler. You're getting the best traveler from agency that owns the vendor partnership or whatever that might
sure.
be. And that is absolutely not the case with right sourcing at all.
And I think, in the segue into SIA, you talk about the economy, you just, globally right now, you talk about the industry as a whole right now. Everybody is trying to reduce expenses because the costs of doing business are continuing to go up.
Yeah.
So if you have the option to do business with yourself and keep more revenue in-house, any prudent business person would do that.
Right. Oh,
and
absolutely.
would try to do that. So I think there's more pressure than ever for non-vendor neutral partners to deliver, but also those partners who aren't necessarily vendor neutral, there's more pressure for them to keep more in-house. And that puts pressure on organizations like us.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's totally true. So considering all of that, give me your first reaction to coming back from SIA. What did you think? Was it what you thought it was going to be? Give me just your honest reaction to it.
Yeah, I think the magnitude is what blew me away, the size of it. You think about what you do on a day-to-day basis, and you always do it in your segment, and you believe that you're, doing it the best, and that you're always achieving and trying to achieve the best standard and the highest standard, and constantly in continuous improvement mode. But I think what was surprising about being at SIA is there is a lot of competition in the business.
Yes.
There are a lot of agencies who are in the business today, more so than you even thought were there.
Right. Absolutely. And each one of them is competing against you on a different level, right?
Yes.
In some cases, that exact same candidate or that exact same placement, they're competing against you. So
For sure.
That's an interesting take, because you're right. It is every year. It seems to get bigger and bigger. Last year it wasn't, obviously coming out of the pandemic, but this year, it nearly doubled in size. The number
huge.
of people that were there. Yeah, the number of agency owners, and then not only that, but the people like yourself, right? That you're that close to the customer, to the vendor, and going to these things to learn, okay, what exactly is happening in the industry. I think it's super valuable information. And I think that's where what began as just the owners going to something more. I would feel absolutely comfortable just sending you guys, and you come back and tell us what you find there, because there's a lot of times where I can talk in 30,000 foot view. You talk in the you're at ground level, right? You are working with that client every single day, and you have that experience, and you can talk to them directly about that.
Yeah, I think all companies are making a push that way to determine what it is that they need to do to win more and to, achieve their mission at a faster pace and at a larger scale. I think what's interesting about it is when you put your day-to-day people in a room with other day-to-day people, I think it's amazing what you can learn from your competitor. And I think this business there is enough business in this business for competition.
Absolutely.
And I think it's good, and
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. And I think there's plenty for all of us to survive and do well in this business. And I think it's most beneficial for the end customers on both ends.
Competition is fantastic for the end customer, right? That's exactly it. It helps with prices. It helps with demand. I mean, it's basic economics at that point, right?
Yeah.
We're just talking about people instead of a product.
For sure. And I think you look at a lot of the topics of SIA, and one of the things that really stuck out to me is the keynote there to kick everything off. The conversation about how it's not something I've looked at before, but it rings true regardless of if you're in the healthcare industry or if you're in the tire business or if you're, filling vending machines with soda. Barry said that your revenue is someone else's expense.
Yeah.
And in a time when every business feels pressure to keep up with the increasing costs of goods and materials. It's interesting to think about our customer looking at us as an expense instead of a partner. And I really think that separation is real in the market today. I think the agencies, the nurses, and the hospitals and the MSPs, we are kind of in a point where there's half of the equation looking at us saying you're an expense and the other half saying, no, we're revenue.
Right.
And I think that's a unique time.
Absolutely causes friction, right?
There's friction there.
Right. But you have to understand how to live within that world more so than ever before. Because you're not wrong. He's not wrong. It's always existed like that. It seems like there's a microscope on it because of what we just came out of.
For sure. Yeah, 100% there is. And I think then you throw in this factor that we'll probably touch on a little bit more, but just the government involvement in the industry, which is increasing and becoming more of, that's just another factor in that. But when you operate in a world where everybody has constant pressure for pricing to be more competitive, I think it requires and it actually creates a really unique opportunity for some innovation. In the spirit of what happened during COVID, some of the best innovation sometimes occurs when it feels like we're at closest to some of the breaking points.
Absolutely. The most uncomfortable times
is where the best innovation
occurs.
Let's
talk about that, because I was going to ask that. Like, what was your one takeaway from that? Do you think innovation is purely technology, or is there something else to it? Because I think the easy answer is more tech. And that's not, I don't believe that's the answer.
I think that's the easy answer right now, tech, right?
Sure.
Because the reason I believe tech is the answer is because tech equals efficiency in most people's minds. And if we become efficient, then we can reduce expenses on manual labor or overhead. If we do that, then we can just pay more. And if we just pay more for stuff, it'll solve the problems, ultimately. I think the problem is, long term, we all have experienced the breakdown of tech. It's dependable until it's not. And when it's not dependable, we all have been on the phone call trying to resolve the technical issue. And the one thing you want in that moment is human.
Is a person.
That
the reason why I am loyal to my Discover card, because if I call the customer service number, I don't have to go through a phone tree. I don't go through any of that. Thank you for calling Discover. How can I help you? It's the person that answers the phone. But I love tech. I love this. I mean, this is the world I live in. But I want that person on the other end of the phone. So that's why I think makes that answer a lot more difficult than just throw more tech at it.
Yeah, I think it's just the easy answer, because right now what everybody hears is, you hear the hospital say, I want to pay less. You hear the nurse say, I want more money. And so you feel in the middle as an MSP and as an agency like Atlas, you hear both customers telling you more. So we've got to find a way to give them both more and to satisfy them both. But I think at the end of the day, they still have to be taken care of and looked out for, both customers. It might be easy to just jump and replace things with tech or people with tech. And I think we always should be looking for efficiencies and, eliminating monotonous or, repetitive processes, steps, things like that.
I think repetitive is the one that gets to me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had those conversations with travelers recently that any compliance in general, there's a repetitiveness to it that just doesn't have to be. If there was a solution that would eliminate that repetitiveness, you're golden. But it just simply isn't.
Yeah, and I mean, I love to dream about stuff like that. And one thing I've not understood in this entire pandemic is, so you have associations in the marketplace. You have associations for hospitals. You have national associations for hospitals. From where I sit, thinking of the traveler, thinking of the agency, why does every hospital think that their compliance standards should vary? Well, why do they evolve? Why do they change? Because if we really want to talk about efficiency, if I'm a traveler, it would be really nice if there was a national standard of compliance for a travel nurse, and that some hospital association would maybe champion hospitals throughout the country to come together and solve this problem, because it will reduce cost. It will increase the flexibility of these nurses to move between organizations or facilities. Pie in the sky. I think if you could get everybody at the table and they could all agree, perfect world, utopian scenario, it would make a lot of sense to put some efficiencies into helping travelers travel.
Helping just employees across the board for them, right?
Yeah.
I think that just outside of just the traveling healthcare community, I think there's all right, give me a percentage. What do you think over the next 5 years? Do you think that would happen? What's the percentage chance that might happen?
I think it's going up, because what's happening is some consolidation right now. And so you have, a few main players in the marketplace. Can they effectively partner together and convince all their customers to come that way? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if it'll ever come that way in healthcare, because you have to remember on the hospital side, you have hospitals who are fighting for revenue from customers. And so they are constantly trying to differentiate themselves. And when you talk about competing in healthcare, a lot of times what you're competing for is the quality of your care. And so the argument is, well, our quality is better because our compliance process is more thorough.
Because our standards are higher there.
Or our standards are higher.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, in most organizations, but with healthcare especially, their prices are their prices. You have another party involved in the pricing of all that. But what the consumer wants is quality, and they want to feel quality. And so that's a standard in our side of the business that they place on us that they believe validates the level of quality of care they deliver. So I think it could be hard in that sense.
I'll tell you, if there's an association or a system out there that wants to do it, I will test pilot that. Like, we will do it. I think, and I know we've got friends in the industry that would absolutely do that with us. It's just going to take that first one to decide to do it, right?
Yeah.
To understand that maybe that quality standard is a fallacy. That's not the quality of their care, but if they increase the quality, the amount of compliance to start a contract equals better quality. That isn't necessary. More doesn't equal better.
I
always.
agree.
So,
I think it could be simplified.
All right, last question. Give me your outlook for next year, 2024, based on what you've seen. And then the follow-up question to that is, did it change? Was your outlook before different than what it is now because of what you experienced there at SIA? Or
I think I personally came back kind of energized about the outlook. I know the business is down, your revenue is someone's expense mentality at the moment. But I think what was really intriguing to me is, removed from COVID now, reflecting back to before COVID, the industry is so significantly larger. Yeah. And the gap and the shortage between the need and the supply is as strong or as big as it ever has been. So I personally think there's a lot of talk about shrinking in the industry again, but I think we have to keep that relative when we remember we're going to shrink from the all-time record.
From where the
highest ever.
Yep.
The best year ever. We're going to shrink from that. But I really believe if we could rewind to 2019 or late 2018 and say, in the next 3 years, the business is going to be double the size it is. There's going to be double number of hospitals using travelers. There's going to be double the number of positions, and the bill rates are going to be significantly higher than what they were today. Would you say that excites me, or would you say, oh, really? That's disappointing. We'd be pretty excited about that.
Sign me up. Yep, I'll take that. If you and we said that too, like, you take that middle, you take the pandemic out of the equation, and you take 2024 and you bump it up to 2019, as if the middle didn't happen. Our growth trajectory just for the industry continues at a very good rate.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's a very good rate, and it's not going anywhere, and they reinforce that at SIA, right? The need for healthcare is going to continue and increase. And, as this baby boomer generation continues to age, our grandparents, my grandparents, the people, we love and care about, I think healthcare only becomes more important to us as consumers and needed. And so is there a nurse shortage? Is there not? We don't know. There's arguments about that. I think it's pretty factual that there's a shortage when the largest population group in the world is at nearing and getting closer to the end of life,
Right.
which requires typically the highest level of healthcare need.
The facts prove that.
Yeah.
The facts bear that out. So, which brings me to just my opinion. Now, this is just my opinion. While I was there at SIA, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Adam Conrad and David George and Holly Hunt from Great Recruiters. And it's no secret. We've talked about them on here before. Great Recruiters is the G2, it's the Yelp, it's the place to go if you want to talk about your recruiter, especially if you're looking for a new recruiter or a new agency. And the best thing about it is it has nothing to do with us. We don't control any of it. It's all about you rating your recruiter on a fairly strict scale. And like I said, I've always been a proponent. Adam is probably one of my better friends probably one of my best friends in the industry. I believe in his product. I believe in the value that it brings to us as an agency and to our recruiters every single day. And they give away this award, and it's called the Cut Above Award. And this is at every one of the healthcare shows that they do, every one of the SIA shows that they do. And for a couple years now, I've joked with him, like, when are you going to give me this award? Come on. What do I got to do here? What do I have to do to win this thing? And honestly, I never thought that I would. And if you saw the reaction, it's been on LinkedIn now. I won it this year. And it's not just me. It's everybody here, all of our recruiters and our brand team and our experience team that have bought into what Great Recruiters is. So as much as I was excited for me to receive this, it's really for all of us. And so it's going to have a nice place right here in the production room. So, and every time I look at it, I'll think about our relationship with Great Recruiters and how important it is to us here. All right, final thoughts. You want to go back next year?
Yeah, I think it's super informative, and I think it gives us a really good pulse on what the industry is going to do. I think it's a great experience to collaborate with peers in the industry, similar to a TravCon, right? Mm-hmm. It's great to get together with your peers, and it's also a really grounding thing to remind you that in your microcosm, the problems you see, the issues you see, the frustrations you have, those type of events put you in a room with people who have the exact same challenges, yes, emotions, feelings, and it reminds you that it's not unique to you.
Right.
And you come back, I think, with the perspective that you can win. You're facing the same challenges as everybody else.
We are not alone. Those challenges and those struggles and those wins, we are not alone. They have the exact same ones. And you're 100% right. I go for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons would be that connection with our peers, the other guys that own those agencies too, that think about the same things driving into work every single day, or that they sit with their CFO and they think, how are we possibly going to figure this out? They have those same struggles that we do, right? And they're not unique. But once you start talking through them, you come to some understanding. You can bring that back and do just a little bit better every day for your internal staff, which does a little bit better every day for our travelers, all the healthcare professionals that trust us every single day. We can be just that little bit better because of those conversations we have over dinner or in a breakout session or a round table or whatever you want to call it. It's just there's a ton of value to it.
Yeah, I think when you quit trying to, learn and grow and evolve, is that the point where you begin to die? I think this is just a step in the continuous improvement and pursuit of perfection at what we do. And it's something that will always be moving ahead of us, and we have to continue to chase it.
We got to keep learning.
Amen.
All right, Taylor, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
It was a great time.
Let's
I
do this
appreciate
again
being
sometime.
Here. Anytime. You make the call, I'll make the drive.
All right.
Sounds good.
We'll see you next time.